Hi everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is my March wrap up. So this isn't going to be a very long video because I only read 8 books in March, which is not good for me. Of course, any reading is good reading, but I'm used to reading 12 to 15 books a month, and obviously in March I only read 8, so my reading was way down, and to be honest that stressed me out a bit because I really enjoy reading, and without having my outlet to escape, I was in a pretty stressful headspace and in such a bad mood. The reason for my reading being down was there were a couple of things. First of all, work was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. I don't want to talk about it too much out of respect for other people. Basically, we made some redundancies after I was just promoted to my management role, and my role is okay for now, but the news of the redundancies hit and people were starting to leave the company, which wasn't very nice. In addition to that, we are working on a massive project that isn't going very well at the moment because it hasn't really been thought out very well from the initial stages. I'm not having a good time with that. And then also, in some slightly better news, a couple of my friends came to stay. One came over from America. I've been friends with these women for over a decade now, I think, and it's the first time that Dee has been over from the US to the UK. So she stayed with me, my friend Tatum stayed with me, and we had an amazing time, but it was very busy and I didn't get any reading done. Also, my friends are very loud and I'm a very introverted person, and I felt a little bit rude reading while they were here, so I didn't do that really. So I didn't get much reading done, but you're probably here to listen to me talk about the books I did read. So let's get started. First of all, I read The River of Silva by S.A. Chakraborty. This was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I was actually given a review copy from NetGalley as an audiobook, and I'm so happy that I got to experience it in that format. So I've actually already read most of these stories as a PDF that the author released just after Empire of Gold came out. I think there were a couple of new stories in there, but a lot of them were almost the exact same, or at least they felt very familiar to me. I was so happy with it though. I still gave it 5 stars. I love this one so much. I love the Day Bed trilogy. This is an epic fantasy trilogy. The first one is The City of Brass. You've probably heard me talk about it so many times. It's about a woman called Nari who is a con artist, and one day she summons a djinn and she learns about this city of brass as they travel there, and she discovers the whole world of the djinn, this whole fantasy world that she didn't know existed. A lot of it is very political, but a lot of it is also very heartfelt, and the characters' journeys in this and their stories is incredible, and it's my favourite, one of my all-time favourite series and trilogies, and this is the short story collection. Obviously I would highly recommend it. Start with City of Brass and then read this one last. Obviously it's always better to read in publication order, and some of these short stories do spoil what happens at the end of the trilogy. Next I read Wake by Lisa McMahon, which I have had on my shelf for a decade. This one is YA paranormal. It's about a young girl called Janie who can go into other people's dreams. That's all I really remember about the plot because I didn't really like this. I gave it 2 stars. I'm quite disappointed that I didn't love it because I have had it on my shelf for ages, but it's a good one to knock off. It's very short. I'm reading this as part of my booktube history project, and it was another dud, I'm afraid. So this was very boring. The writing style was very basic, and there was a lot of telling instead of showing, and by a lot I mean the whole book was telling instead of showing. The sentence structure was very odd. So for example, it says then full stop, the man flicks his cigarette at cable, full stop, cable ignites, full stop, flops around on the ground in flames, full stop, screaming like a poor tortured baby bunny, full stop, and then cable transforms, he becomes a monster and the fire is gone, standing behind her watching her in horror is cable, full stop, the second, full stop. It's not very good, so I didn't enjoy it. I gave it 2 stars. I won't be continuing with the series, but I'm glad to have this off my shelf. I then read The Night Shift by Alex Finlay. This is by the author of Every Last Sphere, which I really enjoyed. I gave this one, The Night Shift, 3.5 stars, which was slightly less than I gave Every Last Sphere. So this one is an adult thriller book. It starts off in 1999 and a bunch of teenagers are killed while they're doing their work shift at a local Blockbuster, which for those of you that may not know, it's a video rental chain. It used to be a physical store where you could rent VHS tapes and then later on DVDs. Years later, in the same town, a group of people are killed at an ice cream parlour while they're doing their shift, and there is one survivor from each event, and people are wondering whether they're connected or whether this town is just really unlucky. If they are connected, who did it? Is it the same person or is it a copycat killer? So I'm not going to go into any detail about the plot other than that. I will be doing a full review on this because I think it's a good one to talk about. Like I said, I did enjoy it. It was very fast paced. I was very intrigued by the mystery, but it didn't really grip me as much as his first book did. I feel like the mystery wrapped up very cleanly. I also didn't love the main characters in this one. None of them really stood out to me at all. They all felt very much the same. I then read a very short novella, which, if you could even call it that, it's It's about 15 pages long and it's The Best Girls. This one was a very creepy short story which I quite enjoyed. You can get it from Amazon. It was on Kindle Unlimited for me. I'm not sure how much it is to buy, probably 99p because it is tiny. It's literally 15 to 18 pages, something like that. This is about a girl who is growing up in South Korea and she's trying to live up to her parents' expectations, except her parents don't really have expectations of her because she is one of many girls and she has one brother who is like the shining star out of all of the children. I don't really want to talk too much about it because obviously it is so short and I don't want to give the whole thing away, but it's quite creepy and the ending kind of left me feeling a bit ill. Next, I read Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco. This is the first book in a YA to new adult trilogy. It's paranormal romance. It's about a girl called Amelia whose twin sister Victoria dies because she seems to have made a deal with the devil. So Amelia is trying to figure out what's been going on and she ends up summoning one of the princes of hell. The two of them have loads of chemistry and there are some really fun scenes between them and they're trying to investigate what is happening to all of these girls who are dying because Victoria wasn't the only one. I thought this was really fast paced. I think some of the descriptions could have been a bit clearer. I mean the scene descriptions of what was happening because I was a little bit confused in some places. The author seemed to skim over some of the characters' actions and so I was a little bit confused about what was happening in a scene, but other than that I really enjoyed it and I was actually quite impressed. I'm really excited to read the sequel, the second book, which I've heard is more new adult than young adult, which this one definitely is. I think some things get a bit steamy in the second book, but I don't mind that at all. I'm looking forward to reading it. I think the author did a really good job with the snark between the two main characters and it just built upon the chemistry that they had already. I think the world building could be a little bit better, but I'm not going to hate on it. I mean, I had a lot of fun with it, so I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read another tiny book and that was, I don't know how to pronounce it, Galatia by Madeline Miller. This is her short story, which follows the story of this person from Greek mythology, but it's kind of a interesting retelling because it reads like it could almost be modern day, but obviously in the mythology it's ancient Greece. Basically the mythology is that a sculptor creates a wife out of marble and she is the most beautiful woman that anyone in the town has ever seen and she is there to please this guy and it's all based around that and her wanting to gain independence. I love this and I love this edition as well. It's so cute and pretty and it's also pocket size, which Waterstones keep telling me is very important, as though I would be keeping this in my pockets that don't exist. I would highly recommend this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. I just love Madeline Miller's writing. I can't wait for her next book to come out. I then read Finlay Donovan is Killing It, which is a crime humorous story. The main character, Finlay Donovan, is an author and she is really struggling because she is in a bit of a slump, a life slump, a writing slump. Her husband has left her for a real estate agent and he is also trying to get custody of the children. Finlay is worrying because it's probably not going to turn out well for her. She's not earning much money from her writing as it is and she's really struggling to write her newest book, so she's probably gonna get her advance taken away. So she asked to meet up with her agent and talk about all the things that are going wrong, and she's talking about how she is unable to kill off this character because she's in a bit of a slump and she's really struggling to put the murder together. And someone overhears this and is like, oh my god, this woman is a hit woman and I need to hire her to kill my husband. And so Finlay gets involved with something that she maybe shouldn't. I thought this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I did only give it 3 stars because I feel like it dragged a little bit, and for this kind of premise I think you need a tighter, faster plot. Not that this was slow paced or anything, I was just expecting a little bit more kind of whammy, if that makes sense. I did have a lot of fun with it though, and some parts were really funny and had me laughing out loud. I really liked Finlay and her relationships with a couple of people in this book, particularly her children as well. Her children were a lot of fun. I feel like it was a very realistic approach to motherhood as well. It wasn't all picture perfect or clean or anything. I liked it a lot and I'm looking forward to reading the sequel eventually. I'm probably going to get it from the library though because I don't think I'll read this one again, and I probably don't want to buy the series in physical format. And finally, the last book that I read in March was A Stolen Life by JC Dugard. I'm still not sure how to pronounce her name. So this is a memoir by JC, who was kidnapped as a child and she was held captive for 18 years and she was forced to have sex with a much older man, and she also had 2 children by him as well. I really liked this memoir in that it was an interesting read. I did think that the writing was very childish, but that's not actually a negative. I thought it was very true to JC and her character as a person, because she obviously grew up with no education. She was kept in a shed in the back garden, so she had to rely on her own curiosity and the education from the man and wife who abducted her. So I like that the editors let her keep her own style because it felt very, very true. I only gave this 3 stars. I wasn't really sure how to rate it, but I didn't love it, so that's why I've landed on 3. It did give me a lot of insight into what happened to JC, but aside from the reflections that JC included at the end of a few chapters, I could have probably watched a true crime documentary and gotten the same thing out of it. That sounds really mean of me to say. A lot of it was very, very factual, apart from the reflections parts, which were very, very good. I don't really know what else to say about this one without sounding really harsh, because again, I did like it. I really enjoyed it, but it's not a favourite of mine, so I didn't really want to rate it higher than 3 stars. And then that was it. That was my tiny wrap up for March. I've still managed to talk for 15 minutes, but I probably can't keep it going because I have nothing else to talk about. If you've seen my April TBR, then you probably know that I'm trying to be really ambitious in April and I've got lots of grand plans, so it's probably going to go a lot better for me than March did. I don't actually have many life plans apart from working in April, and I've got some time off work as well, so that's really exciting. So yeah, that was my March wrap up, short and sweet. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if you enjoyed them. If not, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all in my next video. Bye!